Okay, do you want to take the roll or do you want me to?
Me too.
Okay, Johnny, you here. Sean Platt. Here. Cindy Neely.
Here.
Betsy Blakesley. Keith Trosser. Mark Reynolds.
Here.
Bob Hamilton.
Here.
Brent Ganser.
Here.
And can we get approval of the agenda, please?
Well, I think I guess it would be a conceptual. So can. Conceptual.
A small conceptual?
A small conceptual.
Okay,
Yeah, there's no plan, no.
Okay. okay.
No, I think it was in the back.
And I would like to add a conceptual as well, or a audience business either way.
Okay.
Let's go ahead since we have people, somebody here, and then we'll do that last.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion then to,
Make a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Mark.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, audience business, I think you're on our agenda tonight, so we have no other people here for that. So Leanne Cox, 2125 Flatiron Drive. Okay, and tell us about your project here.
Just a little 10 or 12 storage shed. Put in the backyard. To keep our children's stuff in, because I'm tired of it now.
I understand. This is my show. The problem with putting the children's stuff in their bed is the children get old and they move away, but they don't.
Well, that's what's happened. One's been in Australia for a year, and the other one lived out of state for years, and. But it's things like their high school annual.
They don't want those. My mom kept bringing me boxes of stuff and I was like, I just throw them away and said, just. throw them
Well,
away.
they haven't come to my house to do it, so.
Every time she came out for years, she'd bring me boxes and stuff. I was like, if it's still at your house, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, and the shed will be shingled and painted to match the color of the house.
No trees cut down for it?
No,
so painted to match the house, it's the brown or the beige.
well, it's kind of a beige with red trim,
Blend in,
yeah.
Okay.
So you won't be able to see the shed from the front of the home. Next time I'm in here, it'll be about that one, yeah, but that's budget 2020.
Okay, accessory structures, page 100 in book 3. What's wrong? That's. Okay. Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, sir, that's it. Just simple, just has 2x4 studs.
You want to see. Sometimes you have a premises, no tough shares.
It's not a tough
So it's
shed.
not, it's not a pre-manufactured, but it is a barn.
Yeah, it's the roof line. It's the roof line. It's gonna be a problem.
We're in the metals,
Yeah, well, that's where I am. I'm in book 3 and it says an accessory structure. Because it's, you know, it meets A, it's in the rear of the lot, it meets B, it's supported with the scale. C says it should be, basic rectangular forms with hip gable or shed roofs.
well, that's a gable roof.
And that's
That's a gambrel.
It's a gambrel.
Oh, I don't know.
Gables are straight vistas.
Mhm.
A gambrel is one, you know, the old
Yeah.
farm look.
Yeah, because you get extra space on top of the shed with that type of roof. And we're trying to minimize the footprint of the roof. or of the shed itself. While maximizing the storage space inside of it. That's why I chose that type of shed.
Well, we haven't approved any of these, I know.
No, we haven't.
We've looked at many of them, and they have to go back to the drawing board a little bit.
Because I'm sure they come with,
They do, again, to maximize the storage, given the footprint of the 10 by 12 shed. I'm not real keen personally on that style, but it fit our needs in terms of the storage capacity that we need. I'd sooner go with a smaller footprint than a bigger shed.
yes, I understand that our difficulty, of course, is that one of those roof lines leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. Which is why we are really sort of,
Well,
because
it's
we deal
gonna,
with
I mean,
precedent.
I understand that, but no one's gonna, we own the lot behind it.
Yeah, yeah,
I get your point.
That's
Still there.
I get your point.
Yeah, because that is,
It's outside the guidelines.
it's outside the guidelines and it will tend to be, yeah, yes, you do it once, it's very hard to not say yes again to the same thing. So I think.
I don't think you'd lose a whole lot of extra storage space by having a shed roof on it. If it's the height that it is in the front, and then it just slopes back slightly from the front, then you still have a lot on the sides or even across that front and the upper
You
part.
could build the height of the shed roof up.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, a lot of times you see the gambrel type sheds with a 6 foot wall rather than a 7 or an 8 foot wall.
So I actually thought about doing that.
This is a 7 foot wall.
Yeah, and so if you guys would approve that, we could certainly do that. Go up higher with the straight instead of having the, you know, whatever that's called, go with the,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
cable, the straight
is that what
cable.
that's called?
Yes, yes, a
Okay.
straight cable
And then go up more
on
on
the
the
sides.
sides.
Right.
And we're fine with
Go
doing
for
that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super.
If you guys, I mean, I just want maximize storage
Yep.
space. I don't care really what it looks like if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, I think that if I'm having a hard time reading, I think it says it's 7 foot, so if you go
It
up
is
another
7.
foot, you'll actually gain. You'll gain a lot more usable
It'd be
wall space,
usable.
which is better.
Yeah, so we're talking about, you know, I always call them kindergarten buildings because having taught little kids, the way they do buildings is this,
Right.
this, and this. And we're talking about one of those.
Yeah.
So if we are in agreement with that,
Well, let's come up with a height for it.
So I have a gable roof shape and 8 foot height.
On the wall.
Wall.
of all,
Wall height.
Wall height.
yeah,
Okay.
because that brings it up.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I did think about that, but I thought maybe this would be easier to build.
This will actually be easier.
Oh, well, what we're discussing right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's four planes.
It's less material,
It's
too,
less this.
less cut.
Mhm.
So on page, for the notes, page of, guidelines, book 3, chapter 14, section 1, new accessory structures. A, locate the accessory structure at the rear of the lot. B, construct an accessory structure that is subordinate in scale with the primary structure. It certainly is. And C, it should be similar to the character those seen traditionally and use basic rectangular forms. And D, maintain the traditional range of building materials. And E, maintain simple detailing on accessory structures. I don't think you're gonna put a bunch of gingerbread up.
No,
That's it.
So I would move that
We approve with the sightings and the two
and
stipulations.
the stipulation on the wall height and the roof shape.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Okay.
So this kind of roof, 8-foot walls.
yeah,
Okay, got it.
you're good.
Will I get anything in writing?
Yes,
Yes.
we'll get a certificate of appropriateness. I'm sorry, that was Cindy, you moved that, who's the second?
Yep, I moved in either one of them.
John,
John second.
Somebody.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, so next we just have a couple of conceptuals. Sean, do you want to go ahead and do that?
Okay. At 515 Third Street. The retaining walls behind that house are failing, they're timbers. But there's no access back there. We met with an engineer this week. And I guess they have retaining wall concrete block. They're like 4 foot deep, 4 foot wide at the bottom, and they go up, they get smaller as we get taller. But it's just a concrete wall. I'm just wondering if that would, it's behind the house.
Is it
Which
one
house are we
piece or they
talking
stack
about?
it that
It's
way?
right next to Centennial Mill.
That was 515 or 513?
It might be 513.
So it's not next to Amanda's?
13.
Is it amended?
No, it's Penix.
Oh, people from Minnesota,
This one,
I
okay.
believe it's that one, different color.
people from Minnesota.
No,
No,
they're from Denver.
no,
These
it's not
ones?
Patterson.
It used to be Regano's house.
Who?
No,
Oh, Pecano's.
no, one house over.
Oh, I'm on the wrong street, that's why.
It's that house right here.
This house,
No, it's over here.
That is Third Street.
That is Third Street.
this house?
Pagano didn't live on Third Street.
That
No,
house.
He lives on Tower Street.
No, it
13.
used to
Yeah,
be.
he's on Taos, but he used to live in that house.
oh,
That's probably been 20 years ago.
I'm saying if you've been here for a while, that used to be. pretty-
So it's the one down from the Centennial Mill or?
This house?
This house. This is all changed now, though.
Well, yeah,
That house.
tell us which house it is.
You just saw, that's the front of it.
Because
That house.
That house.
Oh, okay.
Pass it down, you can hit left or
Right
right.
across from Jen Bagan's.
You can hit left or right and see too.
Yeah, they live in Denver.
And it had a timber retaining wall. It
Hit
looks
left
like,
or right and you'll get other.
oh, I know the one on.
it looks like it's been tiered.
He used to be a pilot.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the two tiered, they both failed. And right now it's only about.
So is this one piece that's tapered or do they build it that way?
Build it up.
Okay.
It's probably gonna be about 5 feet tall, and then we can
Can you pull
tier
it
it
back
back.
in the house?
and it's gonna be concrete?
They're concrete block, they're made for retaining.
I've used them before, not up here.
No, not up here, you haven't.
Can they face it?
We can have them faced,
Look like
but you're
stone?
not, nobody's, you can't see them from anywhere, maybe from Centennial Mill, you'll see it.
Well, we just had that
You
argument,
know,
Sean.
you can't.
Whether somebody can see it or not.
Anywhere, it's not,
Not, it's not on the
So back there.
line.
Behind it, that, you
No.
see that much of it, right there,
What's this up here?
that's that house,
Oh, okay.
this is down here.
What's the existing wall, like? Is it just stone?
So that's, he's talking about the low one, not the
Timbers.
high one.
Okay.
It's a brick wall now?
No, it's timbers.
Oh, timber.
Back here.
I'm
And
not
it's
saying
failed,
they
it's
shouldn't
only a
have.
couple, maybe 2 feet from the house now. It's the key
It's this
switch.
one, not that one.
So they're gonna redig out.
Dig as far as we can.
yeah, but it's this
They
one and the one
reuse
above it.
Well,
So
no,
how far
it's
was it
somebody else.
originally? How far was it originally?
It's just the bottom tier or the whole thing?
Probably go tiers. We're up to here.
So are you going to step it?
Yeah, step it, come up like 5 feet and then step it, and then come up maybe 2 feet on the second tier. I think
I
is
don't
what
think we
they,
should get into concrete walls or.
that's the only way we can get in there safely.
You can't get in there from the mill?
And I would have to ask for access from Centennial Mill.
Yes, but you undoubtedly could get access from Centennial Mill. I mean,
But
that's, that's HDI's property, they're gonna allow you access to in there to get back to do a well.
But we've had excavators, we've had engineers, the only safe way to get back there and do this is this way, is what they're saying.
We always believe them?
I do on this one. I've had more than one person tell me
It's
this,
probably because of that high bank behind there.
yes.
So
If you do a traditional concrete wall, you gotta go down, they want us to go down 4 feet below frost.
Yeah.
And now that dirt wall is at least 12 feet high.
Can it be
When you
stone
gather
clad?
that whole- I'm
Could
sorry,
it be stone clad?
they can put, they have different finishes they can put on it, so it's not concrete. It's just cost, but. So we're looking at keeping the cost down. This is probably
It's gonna
gonna
be expensive.
be 150, 200,000 to do this.
Wow.
If you come up with something to face it,
Yeah, well, because actually that's on the first switchback of Granella Pass, we have a huge, what looks like dry stack wall, right?
you know,
That's a concrete wall.
Yeah.
That's right behind it, you know, you can face these things,
You can get the guys from Silver.
Well, they can come, they're pre-faced.
They look like
They're
stone?
made, they look like
Yeah, they're
stone.
precast,
There's a
they're
variety of
precast
different
modules.
faces.
Okay, so it's
If
not.
that's what you
flat
would prefer,
concrete.
then that's what we'll look at.
let's.
let's
Yeah.
look at how it's facing, what
Okay.
the facing of it looks like, because, no, I don't think we wanna get into the fact that people put up plain concrete walls, because, you know, because they're the only ones.
And I think even more is the color of the concrete, we definitely don't want
Right.
gray
Yeah,
concrete. If
and
they-
that's,
If they could go with the sandstone color, that would be a step in the right direction.
that's what I would push for if we went with just a plain wall.
Okay.
Cause
So
what's
you-
gonna happen is this house and then you skip Centennial Mill and where, who's this, live? Cooper's live. Then that next house, the people from Minnesota have the same problem. with that.
Yeah, Patterson's have a real problem back there, and.
So we might as well come up with a solution that works for everybody.
Yeah,
This
cause,
guideline.
'cause this way we can access it from Centennial Mill and we only have to go a foot deep. And we don't have to excavate that whole hillside,
Yeah,
cause then we're disturbing for the house above.
Yeah,
It's just one thing after another.
yeah, I used them in Nebraska, for bank retention. And they interlock, and they're big blocks, I mean, they're,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna need a
Color
machine
and
to get them in
face,
there.
okay,
okay?
okay,
Let's look at what the color can be and how it can be faced, so we know what that end appearance is.
okay.
Even if it were stamped, I mean.
Well, I think that's what
I
it
think
is,
it's
it's
probably
stamped.
yeah.
Yeah, but then the color also does matter, and the color, we're using on the highway, this, if you look at the new highway medians when they're finished, and that's an applied, that's not.
That's not in the contract.
No, that's-
That's applied.
Put on afterwards.
It's put on afterwards, but the color, we worked on that a long time, that color pattern for the deeper brown. As you exit the Veterans Memorial Tunnel, the center line, the center, the median,
Very.
barriers, the ones that have the little tops on them even, are a slightly darker, tan than what we're using. And actually, I can get easily,
Okay.
because, you know, by email, I can ask the guys to send me that color number and stuff, because that's a really good color as far as blending with hillsides and things.
Okay,
So, yeah, the color's gonna make a lot of difference, and it's doing something with the surface, so we don't look like we've.
okay.
Yeah, you don't want
Yeah, I wanna check on this before we go through all the engineering and
to, yeah.
soil testing and all that.
you could probably send them with a boom truck up, couldn't you? Back to boom truck up.
They may have to bring in a crane. They're like 3,500 pounds, I think he looked it up, 3,600 pounds each block.
Cause mine,
No,
I had hooks built into mine, and we set them with a boom truck, and then we round the hooks off and stack the next one on top of it. Worked pretty slick. A lot cheaper than concrete.
Yeah, we had a couple engineers come and look at it and left, they weren't even interested in looking at it.
They're like, oh, this is bad.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, so were they planning on coming in then? With this,
Yeah, we will, I just,
so yeah,
before we move forward and spend
yeah, yeah,
lots of money.
I think they should do something. I think they should definitely do something before the hillside.
Yeah, they're gonna lose the back of the house if
Oh,
That's like 20 feet, isn't it, or something like that? Total?
it's totally.
Yeah.
Kasia, do you want us to save these Kristen Gower, paperwork?
No, if she tells me she's gonna come next week, I'll print it.
Well, there's no point throwing them all away. if
That's
she's gonna
true,
come
I
next
don't
week.
mind.
Okay, so we'll save these, the little Kristen
Or
Gower.
if you want, just making it 2 feet taller. Want to discuss, I can tell her when you're looking about it. It's 2 feet total.
Did you ever have additional heights? What it was gonna be?
Yeah, because this is a highly visible set, this one.
Yeah.
Yes, it's right on.
And it's. Yeah, one that went out, drove it out.
And to make it even taller.
There, I can see actually. Much bigger than it. You know, you see her.
She's making it taller.
These were out, these.
Oh, she's making it, sorry, but you making the front
That's-
taller or the whole thing taller?
Isn't it the same height?
No, it's a shed,
No.
No.
Is it shorter in the back?
It's a, yeah, it's a shed roof.
a little bit.
Okay, then I'm gonna say 2 feet taller in the front,
Yeah.
but I would bet it's 2 feet taller
Oh.
across the board. just
Yes, I would too.
That's what I'd say.
She's just gonna lift the whole thing 2 feet.
Is that 2 feet to the bottom?
We know.
The bottom and the top?
We have a height on it.
I'm being sarcastic.
I was gonna say, well, then that's a hole. You don't.
Do you have a height on it?
It's 13 feet at the front.
Oh, it's already tall.
Yes.
No, the 2 feet added 13 feet.
That's still tall.
It is
Yeah.
tall.
Yeah, that's taller than it's the first floor of my house.
That little house back there.
Yeah, she's,
It's supposed to look
Like a
small,
shed, yeah. I think
not like we're building a little house out there.
Well, I think, you know,
I think that's.
Is he trying to get a,
I'm imagining,
is she trying to get a loft in it or something?
she wants to go 2 feet taller.
That's what it sounds like.
She was putting, I know she was trying to make it a space where like I think her kids could go watch TV outside, basically.
Well, you don't need 13 feet for kids.
I think it's all we have.
We got both.
So it's 11 feet now.
That's still,
Yeah.
that's a tall.
11 feet is tall.
Yeah.
for her shed.
They'll have to get the smaller TV.
I mean, without more information, and you know, if the two numbers to look at, I would say no.
We wanna make a motion?
Oh,
Well, it's not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda,
Okay, well,
But
but.
I can let
You
her
can let her
know.
Yeah,
if
you
it's
can
not
let her
for you.
know, give her some feedback on it, yes.
Because it puts the whole thing way out of proportion.
Well, because I don't think the house is that tall.
No, see the houses. It's got a fairly flat
What was
roof.
that, Main Street?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's right,
and it's,
smack in
and
your
it's
eyeball when you
right down
turn
there
on
on the driveway.
thing. Yeah,
It's blank.
Doesn't
shows
doesn't
like it's
become
about
serious to the main structure.
no, it certainly doesn't.
Yeah, house
You'll
is
have to.
that tall on that side.
You want us to save all this? We'll get back to you.
No, I'll just tell her.
Okay,
The amendment was not approved.
all right.
Do you want me to motion?
No,
No, it's not on the agenda, so it would have had to been you can give her that feedback and then if she wants to come in. No. Yes.
okay, Bob,
I have, want to make you aware, the, Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church is looking into adding handicap access to that church.
Mhm.
Um. The access would be on the 9th Street, 10th Street, 9th Street side, right across from Skip's place.
South side.
Yeah, south side. It will require taking and cutting a door in that side, where there used to be a window. I put together some information and have given it to the people that are gonna look at, you know, what they can do and what they can afford and so forth. Part of the information, and I'll pass this around, it shows you where the opening will be and the questions I have for you for guidance is basically looking at 4 different options. 3 of which are ramps. They can build a standard commercial concrete ramp. That's the most expensive option. To build a high-end deck style ramp with steel framing and, you know, composite materials and railings and all that stuff. Or buy like a modular prefab handicap type ramp. The other, and the 4th option is putting in a platform and then a motorized lift to raise a wheelchair. The difference in elevation from the ground elevation to where the threshold of the door is gonna be about 2 feet, so it's not huge.
Where would the lift be?
Hmm?
Where would you put the lift?
I put it right off, like, we're gonna need a landing outside. the
Oh, an
door.
external landing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, that's the only place you could go.
that's what I was wondering.
So how long would the ramp be if?
The ramp will be,
4 foot, right?
yeah,
What does that measurement you just gave?
An inch a foot,
It's an inch a foot?
Inch a
yeah,
foot?
1 inch of rise and foot length,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
So
I've got a diagram here someplace.
You gotta go 24 feet.
Yeah, it's, well, then like you got landings and.
The
that
landing
kind
would
of
you
stuff.
hit 30 feet.
So it's 1 inch
Intermediate.
foot.
The total length winds up being, about 40 feet.
Wow.
40 feet.
Well, you've got a landing,
You've got a
you get
landing.
from the street,
Yeah.
the bottom of the ramp. So and that's, you know, that has to be a minimum of 5 by 5, just because it fits between 2 columns. I've got it as a 10-foot space where the, you know, come in and come up, get to the bottom of the ramp. The ramp itself is 23 feet, which gets you up 23 inches. And then the door landing is 7 feet by roughly 5 feet. But that gives you an idea of,
Is there a way they could go from the back of the church?
no.
Okay.
Because the back door that's there now enters the sacristy of the church, which would not be suitable for.
Do they have to have a handicapped access bathroom if they put in this? They
No.
put this in, they don't, okay,
No, it was built in 1917.
okay. So which would be the
That was
easiest?
even before my time.
Here, to
Yeah, the interesting part is the church was built in 1917, but it was remodeled in the 50s. So the window that they would be using as the door, and Bob and I sat around and said, wouldn't it be wonderful to restore the front of the church to what it was? I mean,
So
it's-
Sydney's gonna donate $1 million.
Yes, well, no, I'm not gonna go in for hours, but I'm certainly going to inquire somebody what it would take to do that, because this is such a dramatic difference. My concern on the whole thing is that there is the property to do this, but the property to do it is not obvious to the driver down the street these days.
Well, and the property to do this, Mayor, my guess is, without looking at a survey, right, which hasn't been done, that you'll definitely be into the setback.
oh, you
Oh,
think the
you'll be
setbacks that close?
absolutely into the setback,
Yeah.
but you probably won't be into the street except visually.
Well, the setback only counts if there's coverage. A ramp would be okay.
Well, I think if it's in the setback, we could get, you know, You could get permission to do that because it's handicap access. But it may encroach into the right of way. For the road,
That you would need permission for.
yeah,
Yeah, you'd have to have an encroachment,
And
but
some of the
the
trees
problem is
don't
that.
and those, I've raised those two
That's
issues with them.
Is the concrete more expensive than the lift?
Probably about the same cost.
You
By the
know,
time you're done, because you're still you're gonna need a landing at the top, you're gonna need a foundation under the lift.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna need something to get from the street to where the lift is.
well, and I'm thinking maintenance on a daily basis too, somebody's gonna have to shovel all this and, you know, and if it was just straight up to this and up.
Oh, the maintenance on the lift, you got that.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, and vandalism,
And the lift is the rise is 2
2
feet,
feet, so it's not a huge lift.
it's not a huge lift at all.
But I mean, it would look something like that.
Oh, it could be one.
Well, yeah, it can be, you can get it where it's called, you need that.
it's not open and exposed, is it?
I'm afraid this.
No, you can get panels.
Look at the outside of the
Really,
trees.
yeah, it's really
Hmm?
big.
This is gonna change the, excuse
I mean, it's
me.
very low.
It's,
Oh, yeah,
but
But it's got
But
the
the
5
rail
feet wide.
you got all that rail up
it's
there.
gotta be 4 feet wide.
It doesn't have to, be- the landings have to be 5.
Oh.
Ramp,
The landings have to be 5.
ramp could be as narrow as 3.
Can I see a lift when you're done with it?
The lift is a really interesting idea.
In my, their thought was, well, the lift would probably be a lot cheaper, and I really doubt that, because you still have to put a foundation in, you have to build a landing, and then you're gonna need, so. Compare the lift to this, the ramp, I think I figured, well, we could tell you, I figured that would be.
So this looks like it goes up like 4 feet.
They can go up 4.
Yeah, they could go up
Okay, so it
a
wouldn't-
story, it would be a little bit shorter, but the box would still be the same, because you get. Your hand, it's going to be dictated by the footprint and the handrail.
Yeah.
And the box would need to be of a size because you want it to be seen,
Mhm.
you know, a 2 foot high box, I mean, the lift, of course, would have a rail. So
It would just be so much less, you know, to have that here. Could you kind of build a little something around it?
Bushes,
Well, yeah, landscape, but I mean, you still have a concrete walk that'll have to go out to the street.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean,
But
just
it's
around
not-
this, if it had like a little.
5 feet, you'll need a 5 foot landing when you're right at the entrance. So,
Yeah.
it won't be as much.
If it wasn't a huge more cost, I kind of think that would be,
That would be preferable.
I'd be concerned about the snow, so you'd have to research snow on how that works.
could you
'Cause I've never
not
seen
put it
this.
in a basic
You could
instead?
enclose it,
I know, I've seen it enclosed, but I
yeah,
haven't
you
seen it
could do
outside.
that, I mean, that. You would do an enclosure that would go to the top of the door.
Yeah,
Then we've got an addition, basically.
So it looked like a framed in porch. It's-
Mm-hmm.
well, it could look like the little thing that used to be there. Make it look like a little,
Well, it is a little
yeah.
thing already.
Yeah.
So if you do the lift, you have to do the enclosure all the way up.
No,
Oh, the door.
you don't have to, it depends on what the weather issue is.
Yeah, I don't know that myself.
I
without-
mean, it would make sense, because then you wouldn't have exposure to the weather,
Yeah,
and you wouldn't have exposure to the kids.
Snow.
yeah, well, that's what I was thinking for vandalism, if you
Yeah.
just enclose it. You could electrify it, yeah.
So my guess is that it would be in the same order of magnitude as going all concrete.
As far as cost,
Cost wise, it'd be in that same,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
about $65,000 to put it in, and the low end is about 45. So it's not, I mean, it's not cheap.
You still have to build this
Makes
as a
sense.
transition into the door,
Yeah,
The other thing I wanted to mention is
because the
that
door has to swing out.
taking a learning from the Saving Places Conference.
Yeah,
This
it could be.
building is not registered as a historic structure.
You swing it,
However-
but then this stuff is on
The story goes back
Just
into the
lift mechanism
1800s.
on the side.
And I think this could be, because the story is continuous,
Hey,
guys.
continuous operation.
So,
Because Bob's point here,
Could we and Cindy and I had a brief discussion about this. Could we get this listed? I don't know how long it takes, but I mean, that would provide access to other money for doing this as well.
This is the one they built when the first one burned, right? First one burned down?
Yes,
Yeah.
except that they built.
But the brick is 60
They
to 50.
re-bricked it.
They
And
re-bricked
so
it.
I tried the argument, because we're doing that overlay district for the National Register for buildings that are between 1894 and 1929. And I argued hard for this church because the Catholic Church in this town represented a strong part of our very early history. I mean, they built a hospital here in 1868. My neighbors didn't have hospitals.
Yeah.
We had a hospital and a school in the early 1860s because of the Catholic Church. So that church burns, they bought the Methodists, so they took the Methodists down and they created that lovely brick structure that is in that picture that,
I took this in
This one?
yeah.
I should have
this
printed
one.
that out. Actually, I have
This one.
pictures.
And then they re-brick it. And because the National Register has their heads into what a thing looks like rather than the story it tells, which is a whole argument in preservation but I could not get it included in our, they turned me down.
Does
If,
somebody come here to look at it?
what,
Just submit this picture.
that, yeah, no, that was the
Yeah.
picture, if it looked like that, but it doesn't look like that anymore.
That's after it was rebuilt as the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
The Methodist Church was, it was a Methodist Episcopal church. And it was wood, and it was torn down. A lot of the lumber that came off of it
It's used.
was reused in the new church, in the new Catholic Church. And the bricks from the Catholic Church that burned down up the hill, they were used in the rebuilding of the church. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's gorgeous.
there's continuous continuity is there from the like 1880s, I think.
Didn't Lindsay tell us that we can locally designate historic
Yes, and that's
buildings?
what I was just that's what I was just getting to. What we can do, I mean, it deserves a registered designation either on a state or Fed level. However, if we locally designate a structure, but to me, we would have we would have to outline what it takes to get a local designation. We did do one years back for the Swiss Inn. You remember that?
I do, I can say that.
And so it wouldn't be that involved for us to set up criteria for a local designation. But we would need to set up the criteria. I think we ought to do that anyway, because I think that there are some other buildings out there that we might like to locally designate. A local designation makes you eligible for state historic fund grants.
Or could probably find an example to use to start with too,
And tax credit.
of what to use to make the criteria.
You mean, yes, well, and I would simply take the state criteria and the national criteria and say, okay, how do we discuss this at a local level? Because that would mean that at some point along the line, it would be very easy for somebody because we would still be in, this is criteria. You don't ever want to talk to these guys about it because they'll say, well, this one goes with C, but it doesn't go with A, you know. I have memorized the criteria for heaven's sakes. But if we do a parallel to what the state and the feds are doing, it makes it very easy for somebody at some point along the line to say, okay, I have enough background I can just move it up a notch if I want to go through all that paperwork. Anyway,
My wife put together a paper when she was doing her history degree for the church. So she's got a lot of, it's got like 7 or 8 pages of,
oh yeah,
newspaper articles and stuff and information. And then she summarized the kind of the history of the parish here in Georgetown. So I want to expand that because it stops at the church burning down, basically.
Right.
I want to go ahead and expand that to include, building of the new church and We haven't pinned down a date when it was re-bricked, but it was thought to be sometime in the sixties,
Late fifties.
late fifties or early sixties,
Early
yeah.
sixties.
And it did go on a brand new, they have a new foundation, because there's some references to then building the foundation and putting in a sewer line and.
But basically what they did was they re-bricked. That's why it looks the way it does look. They didn't take down the old
Yeah,
brick.
it's there,
It's
just take the
like,
brick off. It's like taking the wood off the.
Peel off a layer,
yeah, but it is because you have the outlines of windows and stuff. I mean,
If you go to the inside, the windows are still there.
there,
The two
yes.
windows that you saw that are all bricked up on the
Oh,
outside,
they're still there?
on the
On the
inside, they're
inside,
there,
Okay.
Yeah.
they're both there.
So,
And it's the same on the other side.
it's an overlay brick.
Why was it re-bricked? Modernize it?
Well, because to stabilize it, we have the softest brick in
Yeah.
any place. From restoring the school, I'm happy to tell you that our brick for a lot of years was lousy. And so, yeah, they were looking at problems with the whole thing and it probably was not on a very decent foundation and, neither's the school. Still isn't. Well, we didn't change it. We
Yeah.
strengthened it from the inside, but we didn't change it. But anyway, if you are saying, let's look at what it takes to
Yeah.
locally designate what I have no other projects to do. But I've got all this stuff, so I will write out what
I'll work with you, Cindy. I can do-
designation qualifications.
Yeah, then I
Okay.
can learn how to do that.
And if we do the proper qualifications, then we can talk about a procedure. You know, if you want to recommend that your property be locally designated, this is how you do it.
Is the Buckley garage designated?
Yeah,
No,
it's not?
yes, oh, I guess it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I would have to look, it would be on our list.
There, I'll look.
Right?
Right.
You look at
Brits-
one of its
Brits
maps.
looking right now.
Because if it isn't, it should.
It's got a, I'm pretty sure.
I've got a C by it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys see. by
Yeah, I gotta
then it
see.
is, then it is, but
And it needs a
But
little
the, you know, the designation criteria,
work on the
there's
side.
no sense in reinventing it, or we got it. Other people have done
Right,
it.
right.
Well, I will report back to the leaders trying to find money that, our preference would be to minimize the look and if we could go the lift route, that it'd probably be preferable. And,
And
if we're
cost.
looking at,
Yeah.
we'll be looking into see if it can be designated as a
Right.
historic property.
Because if you have the lift, even if it has a little structure, it is what it is,
You can
right
put the
there.
window on the little shed, the new shed.
But can you go straight to the door from the lift?
No,
You need a land, you
You don't need
need,
a land, so you'll still have a
you need a
little
land,
structure.
definitely, you need to.
So you still got some structure building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
So,
some
yeah, you
structure.
have
Yeah, you're gonna need a foundation in that, cause you've gotta get down below the frost line to make sure whatever goes there doesn't go up and down with the weather.
Mhm. So the lift is not just the only thing that would be sitting there, 'cause you've got a deck.
Yeah, you'd have a landing and then the lift would be on it, and I would think you need to put a staircase into a couple steps.
I would,
I mean, just for,
so you could get off there without taking the slow lift down.
But it's 2 feet, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not,
and I
So
told
what's
them
that?
they need to go to the Georgetown door, I was able to find them.
Oh,
There's a place up in. Well, either up in Loveland or Berthoud or someplace up there.
Yeah.
That makes them,
I think that's where,
Sun Mountain or something like that, they had the best price, they were pretty reasonable. It's not cheap still, so it's like $5,000 for a door, but
the
But I
door,
would
the
love-
door
opened in, would you still need that landing?
opens out.
But could you open it in?
you open it in?
I don't know code wise if that'd be an issue.
If it's powered, it's not an egress route.
It wouldn't
only for the.
necessarily be, but
Well, but if
there's
it's
really
powered,
only one viable egress route right now, that's a back out to the front
Mhm.
doors. So,
if you're considering this an egress route, then it needs to open out. But-
yeah, I think space wise, it'd probably need to open out anyway, just because there's an alcove there that's 39 inches wide. It's just barely, it's supposed to be 42, but we could probably get that waived.
Well,
Or
if
we
it's
could-
powered, you can get away from that too.
Yeah, we are planning to power line, put money in there to put on, put on it,
Interesting.
so,
Okay,
well, thank you.
certainly. Rachel, do you have anything you want to go over on staff updates?
Talk to Cindy, we're gonna move Crazy Horse from demolition by neglect to items to track, because it's really not eligible for demolition by neglect.
Okay.
I did rope in our new building official with Safe Built. She sent an inspector there recently to do an exterior inspection and posting, but I have not followed up with her on that. That was late last week that she did that.
Yeah, have we renewed a contract with Safeco?
No, well, we have an existing contract with them, it's
Yeah.
not something renewed, but, Dan Lester left.
Yes,
So Kylie is our new building official.
okay, all right,
Kylie Flynn.
where do we stand in, I thought that.
County came and spoke to the Board of Selectmen the last meeting in March and did a presentation. Their timeline, if we decide to switch to the county, is to sign the contract in June and implement services January 1, 2026. If we decide to go that route, so that's where it's standing right now.
Oh, okay, all right, I just got the time, yeah, all right.
Can we, is it appropriate for us, because I know when, the couple of meetings I've been to, we talked about integrating some of the DRC checks and so forth into whoever does the building inspections. Can we move forward with that, with Safe Built for this year?
Yeah,
It's a
Kylie.
Test program.
Kylie's very eager to optimize our services with them. There's a lot of features on the website that we're not currently using, and one of the things that that I've mentioned to her in a more casual setting, not the meeting that we kind of had at the county, was that we all want for them to do the COA inspection, so certainly that's something we can bring up with her. We are working on a lot of things with Kylie right now, because there's a lot of like literature that needs to be updated for submittals and things like that. There's a lot of different kinds of permits that we haven't really been submitting correctly, that she's updating our workflow. But she's doing a lot of work to try to make our whole process with Safe Built better, so I think she would definitely be open to that discussion. Whether or not they honor that, same with the county, we'll just sort of have to see. But I think she would say yes.
Well, it'd be a good, reference, when we have to make a decision about the county.
Right,
If we have something in place that's working well with Safe Built,
yeah.
then we would know what we would want to have from the county as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, I can't remember, did Kylie come to a DRC meeting? No, she would, if you were interested in meeting her, she would come up. If you want, so.
Well, I mean, the county certainly did, and sat through a very long evening, as a matter of fact, so
Yes,
you see, one of the advantages to the county is that they would periodically be at our meetings.
Mhm.
Not always, but would periodically
Oh,
show up
here,
at the meetings, and we probably could arrange to have that even done quarterly if we wanted to, or twice a year or something. Because, I think that it's important that there is an actual conversation that goes on, so.
yeah. Kylie came up 2-3 weeks ago to talk to me and Ryan about, we have the whole thing with, Ryan wants them to inspect all the way to the water main for the service lines. And they historically have only inspected to the property line. They don't want to be inspecting stuff that's on town right of way. And Ryan wanted them to do that, and Kylie is willing to do that, but we just had to figure out what those barriers were. Also, she wants us to be doing plumbing permits for anything at all that's hidden, which the only thing that's not hidden would be like a faucet replacement. Everything else would require a plumbing permit. And Brian and I were like, it's not really something feasible that we can implement, so we were trying to discuss how to moderate that a bit as well, because I mean, I know there are people doing plumbing, or they're not pulling permits, and we don't wanna just look the other way, we wanna have like a real policy about it, but, so she came up to talk to us about that as well, because she understands that that's kind of an unreasonable expectation for us to ask people to come get a permit every time they replace a gasket or something under their sink.
And she's not working on any permits that relate to this commission law.
Not currently, no, we can ask her to add that to the workflow, because workflow is one of the things that she wants to work on with us.
However, we have a distinct flow that we have set up. And we would not want that altered without our discussion with us.
The workflow that she is referencing is the building permit workflow. So we have our town workflow, and then we have our DRC workflow, and then the building permit comes in after DRC, and then before DRC to an extent as well. She would add, you know, we're working on just the building permit workflow, not everything.
We have one of the steps of the building permit, though, is DRC approval of the construction drawings.
True, because staff has to approve that, or we have to approve it before staff approves the certificate of occupancy. So that does happen mid-building permit.
Now, he's talking about.
No, this is before they issue a building permit,
Before they even get a building permit.
because this is what happened down in Bighorn is they got a building permit for something that didn't match the COA. I mean, didn't match our certificate of appropriateness.
Got it.
That's why we introduced it, when they submit their plans for the building permit, we want to see them.
Okay,
And it doesn't take long to check the boxes, the stuff that we're looking for.
okay, sorry, now we're on the same page, we're talking about the COA matching the plans they submit to get a building permit
That's correct.
Yes.
in the beginning. Okay, and then also at the end.
Because quite often, what we see is conceptual drawings.
Mhm,
So they take those and they go back and do actual plans.
mhm,
And
Things change.
things change.
mhm.
And if somebody on that end is not looking at them you know, things can change dramatically. They can turn buildings around. Yeah.
Let me ask Kylie if she would come to the next DRC meeting or one
Some
in the future.
DRC,
I think
yes.
she would come, she's very cooperative so far, so.
Okay,
I mean, I was impressed with her at the meeting, she was at, she seemed to be
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah,
very
And,
easy
you
to
know,
talk
she
to
pointed out
and
to
willing
me-
to listen.
that I think our contract actually requires Safe Built to come to board of selectmen meetings quarterly or something like that, so she was gonna try to do.
Well, that's the other thing that we definitely want to be talking about, because that sometimes then puts the Board of Selectmen in the position of discussing individual building permits if there are questions on individual building permits. And, you know, I mean, if she's reporting to them about what's been going on in building, they are the appeal
Mhm,
for this commission.
mhm.
So we have to be very careful that they are not actually discussing anything that would relate to a change in a certificate of appropriateness. And do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Legally, we have a real question, given they are on our appeal board.
Yeah, that's fair, we did have a discussion about the road and bridge shop. It was supposed to just be an example, but we got into it a little too deep. So-
Yeah, they're likely to get into the issues of the individual issues. If somebody's standing there and saying, I'm your building department, and our current problem is with Mr. Reynolds and my buddy's done on this and this and this. But then you're gonna be talking about a specific person and a specific job that has gone through a whole town process. And you're talking to the Board of Appeals essentially. I mean, they're not sitting as a Board of Appeals, but that's who they are.
Their reports, which these are the annual ones, so I'm not sure how the quarterly ones might change, but they're very generic. It's like, we've done 15 permits in this period of time. This is how many have not been completed. This is how many were canceled. This is how many, you know, whatever. And so, you know, the reports they've done historically have been very generic. The only reason we got into specifics was because we were discussing building services. We were trying to figure out if they would offer things like consultation to contractors who have questions about the permit before they submit it to plan review. And so we got into a
Yeah,
specific
but
example.
the day that a selectman asks a specific question, they're gonna start getting, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point though, to make sure they're
So
not weighing in on things before it actually reaches them, so they can be a neutral body for like the specific.
yeah, so I do think there are some things to
You guys can
discuss.
ask those questions instead of the Board of Selectmen.
Well, right now, none of those questions are happening.
Yeah.
We're just talking about Kylie doing more regular reports to the Board of Selectmen besides annually, which is what we've been doing this week, so. But I will ask her if she will come to the RSM meeting so you can meet her, and ask her questions, and we can talk about that workflow and how that gets reviewed by their plan inspectors. Because a lot of things, there's no plan review on their end because it's not a structural thing. It's a one-stop permit basically, and I look at it, but none of them are looking at it, so.
Okay. Anything else on your list?
No, we're gonna have an Excel.
Yana's letter is in your packet. I don't know if you looked at that.
Yeah, about all of the folks that she has talked to. About doing this.
She's not eligible for tax credits because her barn is not a primary structure.
Right.
Right now, she's just looking for someone to do the work.
She's looking for someone to do the work for a price that she's comfortable with. That is also not affiliated with the town, which is pretty hard. Although she asked about who fixed the barn on Sax Mountain Road.
Is that the one that Road and Bridge has?
It's literally our barn and I didn't think about it, but Mark was like, it's the town barn. I'm like, oh, right. So we obviously will not be fixing her barn.
Okay.
And then we need to determine what the outstanding items are for Koski's property before we send him another letter. So we can look at the last letter, which I did not print. See what that list most recently was, and we can go over what has been done. And then get back to him. He did just leave again on Friday last week.
Yeah, we need to see the list.
He did threaten to sell all of the granite in that wall if we bother him again, so.
What?
He said he would sell all of the granite or the stone in that wall in front of that house. If we.
Because I know the wall's still on the list. And you've got
And he wouldn't be allowed to do that because that would be demolition.
that's correct.
Well.
We take him to court.
Right, so we'd have to take him to court, which is a little weird right now, so, but yes, we'd have to take him to court.
It's a little weird all the time.
Well, I meant like municipal court is a little weird right now.
Oh,
Cause there's, the sheriff's department would be processing that with municipal court, just get a little funky, so. We haven't gone through that just yet, but we'll need to do it eventually. Crazy Horse, like I said, I followed up with the building department and we're. You know, we have a new town administrator starting next week, so I'm hoping that's something we can pursue.
Is Greg gone now? Or is he coming back?
Greg
Overlapping?
is physically not here anymore. He informed staff that he is available for consultation if we call him, but he's not like checking emails anymore, I think, so. In the absence of the town administrator, I'm the town administrator, so so when Dennis gets here, I mean, but I can sign things right now, so.
Yes, but we're not going to put you in the position of signing anything
No.
for
No.
any of these.
That's an emergency only.
Yes, any of these questions. No, but we really got to try to figure out something. The one other thing, in addition to local design, designation process and qualifications, I would like us to look at the demolition by neglect ordinance. And figure out how we might change it in order to be able to use a limited portion of that fund to assist in a couple of situations or assist in situations if through some form of application process. Because the fund is growing. Fund is, I don't know, I didn't look at the budget line before I came down, but it's over $100,000 in it, and it will continue to just grow. There should be some way we could say that, you know, up to a certain amount in an annual basis. I don't know what the figure I wanted was what does it take in annually? I mean, we might say we always want a base level of $100,000 in there. And so, but annually we could, at this point, help take care of paint on something, help take care of, you know, some small stuff around town. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can get that demolition by neglect ordinance, I think everybody probably had one, but in case you would send it out.
It's on, I'm sure it's online.
It is online.
It's in our municipal code. I would say, you know, we've spoken with Jerry. And he does not believe the way it's currently written that we could do this, but he was like, you can ask Board of Selectmen
Exactly.
to designate a portion of that fund towards like.
Yeah, we can ask to amend an ordinance, it wasn't voted on, I don't think, by the general public, I think it was passed as an ordinance. And if it's passed as an ordinance, we can ask that the ordinance be amended. Because, you know, nobody knew what kind of revenue it was gonna bring in, yeah, we know where we are with it
Well,
now.
if we could establish a program in the town that would be available to residents for help, it could include direct grants from that fund, as well as grants in, you know, through the town's name from the state, because there is an avenue to get
Yes, well, yeah.
It could be a
grants
match.
that way as well. Yeah, they're like $5,000 or something.
Yes,
Like
well,
that.
but if you get the grants from the state, they have to be handled through a nonprofit or a government organization.
Right, that's what I'm saying, through
That's-
this program.
Yes, yeah, and I'm not sure that anyway, yes, it's a very good plan to make it possible to do that. It is a burden upon the treasurer to do it.
Mhm.
And what we have done is look at one of our local nonprofits and say, you wanna do this for us? And, you know, the trust did K&A, they've done Santiago Mill, they've done, you know, it's simply because, yeah, it requires a nonprofit or governmental sponsor. They don't have to do anything except manage the money, but they have to manage the money. I do think that makes sense to do. But I'd like to see us move on that demolition, by neglect thing at least, to get something going.
And we have a new treasurer, so he started 2 weeks ago.
Who's that?
His name, he goes by Q, like the letter,
Okay,
Q Wilcox.
okay,
He's very interesting. I like him a lot.
okay. You know what, back to Huskies, and I'll be quick. This stone wall thing bothers me, because are we in place now that if a truck shows up and they are starting to load that granite, can we call and stop that? I mean, are we in the position that because of demolition by neglect and the agreement of that, would we be able to call the sheriff's department or who to keep them from starting to haul that off?
Yes, but the question is, would the sheriff's department do it?
Well, that's what
Because
I
they
want.
aren't hired to do enforcement.
They are not hired to do code enforcement, though the town is currently, we're extending the contract, which ends on May 1st. As it is, but we're doing a work session before the next board of selectmen meeting to discuss how we like the sheriff's department, how we want to move forward with them. Code enforcement is one of the things that we would like them to pick up. So.
Because
But
because that's serious, that's not just like you're leaving your trash out all, that kind of
Right,
thing. That's-
right.
That's.
no, and that would be my point. The question would be, we're not asking for a code enforcement that goes around and looks for
Right.
people who are not keeping the code. We're asking for a code enforcement that the town says this has been brought, specific.
It's effectively law enforcement because
Yeah,
the demolition by neglect is.
It's a law.
It's a law,
yeah,
and they have been served
yeah.
that you need to fix this.
And in conjunction with you need to fix it, you cannot get rid of it, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, fix it doesn't mean,
Get-
cart it off.
Right, okay.
Staff also does code enforcement, we. Ryan or Scooter, I will go yell at somebody.
Okay, but are you gonna come down and tell these guys loading granite onto a
Yeah.
truck? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can red tag,
Just red tag.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
Yeah.
red tag anything
Okay.
on as it's happening.
I'll yell at people.
okay. Bring your dogs, get
A
out there.
red tag that says you must stop what you're doing right now.
Cease and desist.
Cease and desist.
Okay, I feel better then, because I didn't wanna be, we can't do that right now, and then they go.
That would be a matter of someone
John's
noticing
gonna
and
check
calling
every
us.
day.
though.
I'm good, well, my husband walks by there every day with the dog, so definitely he
Yeah.
would tell me, yeah, okay,
He's
Thank
not in the country right now, so we're probably, be a little difficult for him.
yeah. Well,
Who
like,
knows?
nothing happens in a real timely manner, but
Yeah, no, but who knows, he might be calling somebody who comes and
he
just
told
takes
Chris
stuff away.
Passes years ago, he had somebody to buy that,
Right. Oh, I'm sure. Yes, well, he tore down a building when he wasn't around, so, no, the fact that he's left does not mean that it's not,
That wouldn't
that truck is not gonna pull up and start
Oh,
taking
yeah.
granite
I
tomorrow.
mean, he mentioned that house that he demoed. That was a very intentional slight.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Opposition to you guys. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know.
no doubt that he would sell that granite wall. But,
Well,
or not
he
granite, stone, whatever.
It's granite.
It's
It's granite.
granite, it's silver plum
Silver green granite.
Yep, it's silver plum granite.
Let's change subjects.
Yeah.
Yes,
Dogs get
that's true.
comfortable.
Okay. Items track update, we will, Excel's moving again, and so there will be an update, but doesn't need to be tonight.
Okay. I have minutes.
Do we have any?
I read the minutes and I don't see anything. It wasn't a real, busy meeting.
Oh, the outline is minutes.
No, there's,
Did I not replace yours? Cindy?
I have an
Those-
outline.
You have my minutes. Those are not the minutes. Susan made them into real minutes. I thought I replaced everybody's, but.
Oh, you didn't replace mine.
Sorry,
yeah, I had both of those and I was like, wow.
I accidentally attached mine and then
Uh-huh.
realized it didn't have Susan, and I did that at 9:30 on Tuesday.
Okay. What's DFDF?
That's on the
Big Horn Crossing.
Bighorn Crossing.
It's a bunch of questions.
I would guess that, that's just a pure typo. That would be my assumption, that she was typing and she just sort of
Cause it doesn't,
button mashed or something.
yeah. Cat got up and
Yeah.
added a little something.
Does Susan have a cat? I think she does.
Looks like a placeholder for text. So the formatting's there.
He came and did a presentation about the linear part with you guys.
Mhm. I think
Yeah.
that's a placeholder. I don't think the text has been put there.
We discussed with him.
Mhm.
But that was not an approval, that was kind of a feeling out.
I know,
But
but we had a whole bunch of things that we suggested to him, which
Yeah.
should show up in our minutes.
Yeah, she's not on conception.
I think that's a placeholder.
Oh, we have to listen, we
Yeah,
have to listen to the
yes,
recording.
I think we need to figure out what goes in that space.
So we go.
So we'll wait.
Okay. So
Reboot.
we'll wait to approve the minutes when that Bighorn Crossing stuff, yeah, it looks like she did go back and put something in.
Is that also formatting?
So I was looking into that flat blue recreation area.
I forgot about that.
oh, that's dead.
Good. Yeah.
That's dead.
That's
Oh, it's
really
gone?
expensive.
We're not doing it.
And,
Okay.
You don't have to worry about it.
yeah, okay, good. I'd rather just see a piece of AstroTurf if people wanna go do yoga or something, but.
Well, we had a lot of various suggestions on that whole landscape plan and so.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion.
You know, and
Okay.
count on somebody reminding us what our suggestions.
Yeah, somebody wrote it down.
He,
Good news is it took me back.
I've heard him represent that project twice since he came to talk to you guys, and he has incorporated most of your suggestion, all the ones that I remember at least, so.
Okay,
Yeah, there were some counter suggestions made by some board of selectmen members, so I have to balance that.
Yeah, I'm sure, but we would like to know what our suggestions are. That's all I'm saying.
okay.
I don't remember one of them. Yes, I do remember some.
All right, shall we adjourn, folks?
I move we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Um,
Okay.
Okay.
Yay.
Nobody listens to my denial.
Did you?
Overridden.
Yeah, shut up, right?
Okay.
All in favor?
Starting to recoup there, Cindy?